Hello there, Alaskans, wherever you are. Welcome to the Must Read Alaska Show. Coming to you from somewhere in Alaska. This is the place where we talk about, you guessed it, Alaska. Where we keep the mainstream media on their toes and where we are standing up for what's right in a world run by leftists. You can find out more by heading over to mustreadalaska.com and also checking out the Must Read Alaska YouTube channel for some really great content. But first, let's get this party started.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Must Read Alaska show, coming to you from somewhere in Alaska here on Facebook. And later on today, you'll see us on Spotify and iTunes. And what else? We've got Pandora, Alexa app, Google Play, all of the places where you get your where you get your podcast. We are there, and we are the Must Read Alaska show. We are a force for good. And we try to do the right thing for Alaska every single day. And we appreciate you, our readers and listeners, for coming alongside us to also be a force for good. If you don't subscribe to the newsletter yet, then head to the right side of mustreadalaska.com, click on the newsletter, and get yourself on the list. And that way you'll never miss a story. And that goes out 3 times a week. And basically, it's a compendium of everything that Must Read Alaska has had for the past about 48 hours. And that way you can get yourself caught up. There's always stuff in the newsletter that is not online as well, the little tidbits that are kind of interesting, and especially kind of if you're policy driven and you like that kind of stuff, you'll enjoy getting the newsletter. I would like to thank Shoshana Gungerstein for Senate for sponsoring the Must Read Alaska show. Shoshana Gungerstein says, pro-responsible resource development, open the Alaska oil fields now. And she is our sponsor for our show. We thank her so much. You can learn about her campaign for U.S. Senate at www.gungerstein.com. And that's GUNGURSTEIN.com. A little bit difficult. It's a tongue twister for me, but we're really happy to have her sponsoring our show for the second month in a row as she gets her name out and she gets her policy positions out to Alaskans far and wide, and also helps us get our show out to all the nooks and crannies in Alaska. So big show today, John. Quick, what is our Nikiski report from the place where y'all live the dream out there in Nikiski?
Well, I just got done doing a week-long RV trip with the family in Moose Pass. It was awesome. And back in Nikiski, and we're gearing up for our Nikiski hardware store car show coming to the end of the summer. So that'll be exciting. Is
that our second annual one now?
It's a third one we've done so far. And last year we had over 600 people come out to the event, which for the Kenai Peninsula makes it probably one of the biggest free kind of family fun events out there on the whole peninsula. So we're gearing up towards that. We're pretty excited. And then this week I have some fun guests also on the Must Read Alaska show further in the week. So tomorrow you're going to want to tune in. I have Kristen Faulkner, who is a force to be reckoned with on the the race biking circuit, like bikes that you like pedal. And, think a Tour de France kind of stuff. She is from Homer, and she is ranked number 14th in the whole world, which is pretty phenomenal. We'll get to hear her story tomorrow, but she left a venture capitalist job in San Francisco to pursue her dreams as a professional cyclist, which is exciting. And then on the 20th, the day after that, we have Doreen Lawrence, who is a former Seward City Council member. She's had a couple of talk show hosts over the years in Alaska. We'll get to hear about her favorite interviews she's ever done. And then on Friday this week, we'll have Senator Myers on to share about how his election is going and what he hopes to accomplish this next time around.
I'm really excited about this. Kristen Faulkner is she's amazing. She's going to be in the Tour de France on a team. I don't remember the name of the team, but you'll remind us tomorrow. And what's really great about this is that this is something you have to do when you're young. You don't get to like work your life and then retire and then be on the Tour de France. You have to do that one when you're young, and then you can go into venture capitalism or whatever. But she's doing it in the right order, because some things you've got to do when you're young. If you want to be a professional athlete, folks, you're going to do it when you're young. So it's really amazing, and I can't wait to see how well she does on the Tour de France this year. And it sounds to me like you have a really good lineup this week with Doreen Lawrence, who I like, and Senator Rob Meyer from Fairbanks, correct? He's the truck driving senator. and he's a no-nonsense conservative, and he's turned out to be a really good senator up there. So good for him. We are very happy to have a special guest with us today, and I know everybody is waiting to hear from Bethany Marcum, who's the president of Alaska Policy Forum. So Bethany, say hello to the Must Read Alaska Nation.
Hello, Must Read Alaska. It's a pleasure to be with all of you today. So Suzanne and John, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Bethany's been a friend of the show for a really long time, friend of Must Read Alaska for a long time. And I've known Bethany for many years. And she a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, you took over, I guess about 3 years now. You've been
it's actually getting closer to 5 years. It was 2018. So I know it's crazy. So
wow, that went by fast. And so you've been running Alaska Policy Forum for about 4 or 5 years now, and it is another great force to be reckoned with in the state. And you are really taking it places. So we wanted to have you on the show to talk about the Alaska Policy Forum and a very exciting opportunity for Alaskans. We'll get to that in a minute. But first, let's just talk about what the Alaska Policy Forum is. For those who don't know, I think we need to start at the beginning.
Sure, absolutely. And you're right about that, because I still go places and talk to people and they're like, wait, I've never heard of this before. Really? You've been out there for that long? So I appreciate you giving us the opportunity just to even explain who we are and what we do. So technically we're a think tank, but that just means we're an organization that does research and does analysis and then writes papers and puts out data on that information. Some of that information is stuff that's already out there that's publicly available, but we also do plenty of public records requests like you do as a journalist to try to get information that we can then analyze and put together policy papers, legislative briefs, and so on. We work primarily on public policy issues at the state level, and those are issues like education, welfare reform, the state fiscal condition, taxes, healthcare costs. We're a 501c3, so we are a nonprofit, just like a church or a food bank. But our goal, what we do, our mission is actually bringing more public policies to the state of Alaska that are going to bring freedom and liberty and prosperity and opportunities for folks in Alaska. But we do that through educating folks.
And so this is the Alaska Policy Forum, which is, I think, probably conservative leaning. Would you say that that's fiscally conservative leaning, and you mainly tackle fiscal types of things in education, healthcare, but you don't get involved in social issues as much?
Right. So we fill the niche that is the free market, free enterprise sort of role in terms of the liberty side of things. So we really say, we're for all things liberty and freedom.
Right. And so it's been interesting because you've done a lot of good work on things like education, cost of education in Alaska, comparing it to other states. And that's been really informative to lawmakers. And so for people who want to find out more about Alaska Policy Forum, they really just need to, for one thing, visit your website. So let's give them your website. So if they're listening right now, they can go online and look.
Sure. It's Alaska Policy Forum, and that's FORUM. So alaskapolicyforum.org, O-R-G, organization. Remember, we're a nonprofit. And then on the website there is a place where you can sign up for our newsletter as well. So you'll be able to get our newsletter where we highlight some of our stories. And then you can also sign up just to get our posts delivered to your email that we do at least a couple of posts every week.
Oh, yeah, very, very good. And I need to get your newsletter. I don't think I'm getting it. So I'm going to sign up right now. So how long has Alaska Policy Forum actually been around in Alaska?
Well, we were founded in 2009. And if you remember, that was kind of the genesis of the Tea Party movement at that time, where, the people were saying the bailouts were happening federally, and the people were saying, we don't want to be the ATM for big companies that are being bailed out that made bad decisions. Right. And so that was really, kind of the genesis of the Tea Party movement in Alaska. And so the Policy Forum was founded about the same time. But then, as you mentioned, we underwent a pretty major overhaul in 2018 with a new mission, a new vision, new board, pretty much everything new, including me as the at that time, the one employee. Now we've grown. So we've been around since 2009, but it is a different organization now. But of course, we're going to continue to evolve and try to serve Alaskans better.
You've had some really good people involved. I mean, Jeremy, who was it?
Thompson.
Thompson, right? At the beginning, way in the Wayback Machine. And then I think David Boyle was with the organization. Now you're running the organization and you're taking it to next level. Is the Alaska Policy Forum associated with other national think tanks?
Many. Yeah. So
Okay.
we're part of a network of liberty-oriented think tanks around the country. So there's about 60, 65 of these state think tanks that are like ours in other states, like one in West Virginia and one in Minnesota, 2 or 3 in Minnesota, actually. I think there's 4 in Wisconsin. But then there are also multiple other members of our network that you've probably heard of that are more at the federal level, or that just work on a particular issue at the state level, like Heritage Foundation is part of our network, the Right to Work Foundation, the Tax Foundation, Leadership Institute, you might have heard of as well. Center Square. I know that Suzanne, you've partnered with Center Square. They are a media arm of our network where they produce media pieces, Freedom Works. So there's a variety of other organizations that you've probably heard of that are part of this network that we are affiliated with. And the direct members of this network all have to commit to not taking any government funding as part of their organizational strategy.
I did not know that, but that makes sense. It totally makes sense for you guys. You guys are not libertarian exactly, but you're probably more on the libertarian scale side of the scale than some other things, maybe.
Yeah, so I would say for small L liberty, for sure.
Smaller. Okay, got it. Yeah, okay. Well, we want to talk about this Leadership Academy that you're starting. So this is a brand new thing. And so the meat of the matter right now is what are you doing with this Leadership Academy, Alaska Leadership Academy? And then, tell us about what you've got in mind. And we're going to talk about this now.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. So we have just launched applications for the very first annual Alaska Leadership Academy. And the idea is really just to develop and train high quality Alaskan leaders. And that's existing leaders that we already have, serving in some capacity in Alaska, as well as emerging leaders, those who are going to be growing into and stepping into a leadership role. And we want to do this in the kind of the personal liberty and economic freedom movement. So these are the folks we want to move into the personal liberty space and the fiscal responsibility space, the limited government space, right? You've reported on the fact that we have so many freshmen and newcomers serving Alaska in the legislature.
Sure do.
We also, and then the Bronson administration obviously had to fill a lot of roles there. The Dunleavy administration had a lot of roles to fill. So between the executive governments and the legislative governments, there have been a lot of opportunities for folks to step into roles. But there's so many that were freshmen and newcomers that we just felt there was a need to help develop really strong leaders that are well versed in constitutional principles who can defend and help grow Alaska.
Well, how many people are you going to actually have in your first Leadership Academy? I mean, I presume that we've got you're going to have 6 or 7 different meetings or something like that.
Yeah, so it's going to be, this first year is going to be 8 sessions, so 8 different months, right? So they'll start in October and they'll go through May, so 8 months. Year 2, we're planning to move to 9 months. So this first year is kind of a pilot project in the sense it's going to be a smaller cohort. So just 10 students is all we're going to select. So it'll be a very small select group. We've had some really interesting inquiries from some folks. So a broad range of people with who you would already consider having leadership experience, but who have a lot to bring to the table, as well as folks who are new to the area and who are just wanting to learn about what it means to lead Alaska.
Oh my goodness, this is going to be a really good opportunity for some people, but it sounds like it's a little bit competitive too. If you have just space for 10 people, it's like getting a job, and then they're going to have to commit to attending 8 of these. Do they have homework with this as well?
They do. They have homework and assignments. There's going to be reading. So there's definitely some work involved, but the outcome for the individual is superb. So we've seen this in other states who have undertaken these sorts of leadership academies for their right of center think tanks. And it's been pretty marvelous to see how folks have stepped up. As an example, one of the folks who went through the leadership academy in our sister think tank in Louisiana, the Pelican Institute, was a business owner who then ended up being the individual who was the plaintiff for the Supreme Court decision that ended up getting the strike down from the courts regarding the vaccine mandate for companies that have over 100 employees. If you remember that. So that was actually one of the graduates of the Pelican Leadership Academy. So these are the kind of folks who really stepped into the liberty movement, and we're really excited about that.
Oh, this is great, because we have a lot of people who, of course, we watch what's going on in the world, and we all have a tendency to want to beat our chests about it and, shake our fists at the sky. But in order to get involved, you have to understand how things work, how to be most effective, how to get involved. John, you have questions for Bethany Marcum.
Yeah. So Bethany, this is pretty exciting. I think that this is it's a much needed people. we have a people problem in Alaska. I think this is a much needed solution to that problem. I think it puts folks in the pipeline, just like you said, whether it's a mayor that just won an election or a governor, and they're going to have some potential people to draw from. So what's the average candidate look like? I know I've had questions. Can high school people apply? Is it just for college? Can middle school people apply? What's your kind of target demographic here? And who, specifically, who's it open to?
Yeah, so it's really technically open to any Alaskan from anywhere in the state. But I will say that at least for these first few years, we're probably going to be targeting folks at least college graduates and above. Eventually it may be the case that we look more closely at younger folks, and we will definitely want to be training younger folks eventually. But like I said, for now, because we want to start where there's the biggest need. And right now, the biggest need is for mature professionals who are already in the job market, right? But then once we start get some of, like you said, get a pool of folks trained there in those areas, then we can start kind of moving down into the younger age range. And I wouldn't say we wouldn't take someone who's in college now. By all means, if we see an excellent candidate who's in college now, then you can be sure we're going to put them in the class. It's just going to be the competition based upon, who has the qualities that we're looking for. But really, there's a need for mature professionals to get trained in some of these things right now. So I would say that's kind of, really more so the target population, but any Alaskan we would consider. We're just going to look for those folks who we think have the most potential to be able to do the most good for Alaska.
That's awesome. So let's say, I'm a 25-year-old listening to this and thinking, do I even have time for this? I got a full-time job. Maybe I'm newly married. Walk us through a little bit about what this could practically look like for that person who's contemplating applying.
Sure. So for those folks who are in other part of the states, there will be a stipend available for travel and for lodging into Anchorage, because the sessions are going to be held in Anchorage. So we're asking folks to come in on Friday evening to Anchorage, and then there'll be a networking reception on Friday evening. So no course content necessarily. There'll probably be a few sessions where there might be some lighter course content, but in general, the purpose of the Friday evening sessions is networking, because we know that one of the ways that you can grow as leaders is by being around and sharing with other strong leaders. And so we want there to be this opportunity to develop this strong cohort of leaders within the state, starting with this first group of Alaskans who will be in the Leadership Academy. And then you're going to have alumni groups as you go to subsequent years. So we'll start on Friday evening with the networking reception. Then Saturday, the coursework is going to be from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. That will give folks the opportunity to then fly home or drive home, depending on if they're local, back to their home places and spend the evening with their families, and then spend the Sabbath, with their families on Sunday. But so it's, there's going to be, pretty much a full one-day commitment once a month. But then in the interim, there will be some homework and assignments, reading that can just be done on, working it into your personal schedule sort of basis.
Interesting. And so this is something that people are going to have to think through, because that is a big commitment. And it's just not just a free lunch, and they can't just, we don't want to see any dropouts for the Leadership Academy. That would be bad. So it's an 8-month commitment, and you have to come in once a month to Anchorage. And you're going to meet some people like yourself, and you're going to have a lot of camaraderie, and then you'll have a sort of a leadership. This will be a class,
a peer group. Yeah, you'll have a peer group. Yeah.
A peer group.
We're going to be bringing in speakers from around the country, so this is going to be worth your while. These are going to be some nationally rounded experts that are going to be able to come in and provide you with training that you wouldn't be able to get elsewhere.
Really? Okay. So give me an example of like a topic on a Saturday that if I signed up for this, just not just, well, obviously there'd be many topics, but like, just give me an example of one.
Yeah, so one of the presenters that we've already secured, her name is Beverly Halberg, and she is a media expert. She's a former TV host, I shouldn't say TV news presenter and a reporter and that sort of thing at the national level. But she's a media trainer now, and she does media training within the Liberty Network or movement, as you would say. And so she will be doing on-air media training for folks. So they'll be getting communications training. She goes over lots of communications pieces, and then she actually gets folks. I mean, she does this for the U.S. senators and U.S. Representatives. So she's very good at this, and she does what she does. And she sits folks down one-on-one, and she will be interviewing you just as if you were being interviewed in front of a camera or a radio reporter. So it's an extremely interactive process. And then she is able to kind of take you to the next level of your ability to speak to the media, answer questions, stay on point with topics and such. So that's the kind of expert we're going to be bringing in and the kind of training that will be available to the folks who get selected to this program.
Well, I tell you, that in itself would be worth it to people, because in Alaska, we don't have that kind of opportunity. That's just not out there where you could actually get media training from a professional so that you can practice, have some real practice in front of somebody, and then they can coach you about sort of, here's how you want to present. Here's the things that I'm seeing that you're doing. Oh, did you know you had a little tick here and you just might want to do a course correction there? Because you don't know how you appear to the media unless, is that a dog barking in the background, John?
Yeah, there's probably a moose in my yard.
Is there a moose in your yard? Okay, only in Alaska. On our podcast, we have moose in the yard and we've got dogs on the ready. And so this is good stuff. So everybody that I know would benefit from some media training. Myself, John, we'd all benefit from media training. So this in itself is very exciting, because when you grow leaders, we see them, this deer in the headlights with the camera. We see the inability to kind of get their thoughts out. And this is going to give people something really to start working on with themselves. Great personal development.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then beyond the personal development, there's going to be content that is more specific to, what we care about in terms of the policy world. So the constitutional principles of our country. So how do you, as a leader, make sure that the things that you are concentrating on are regarding individual rights and limited government, separation of powers, those sorts of things. There's going to be training on the constitutional principles as well.
Well, let's talk about how people can apply and what the deadline is, because we want to get that out there to people.
Sure. So the the website address that I gave earlier, alaskapolicyforum.org. If you just do /ALA for Alaska Leadership Academy. So alaskapolicyforum.org/ALA will take you to the webpage for the Leadership Academy. And on that page, you've got all the information like regarding the dates that we're putting out there, as well as a link to the application form. Applications are due August 10th. So we just launched this last week. So you've got a few weeks to get things together, fill out the application. And you do need 2 letters of reference, 2 letters of recommendation. So those are also due on August 10th. And so then you can just email all those documents to us. And we're going to then start the process of, choosing the applicants and then allowing them to get flights and hotels booked. And excited to launch the first class in October. October 15th will be the first weekend. So reception the 14th, and then the first day of class, October 15th.
This is so exciting. Yeah, this is so exciting.
I think this program is awesome, Bethany. And one of the things that Suzanne and I see all the time, whether it's on comments in Facebook and messages, we get literally thousands of comments every day, is one of the themes is, how do we get involved? What do we do? How do we make a difference? There's not many opportunities in Alaska. For folks that are listening, this is the opportunity you've been waiting for. So no longer can you sit by and say, well, we just don't have that cool stuff in Alaska, and it just, it doesn't ever come up here, and I don't know what to do. This is what you do. You get off your butt and you go to your computer and you go to the website and you apply. And, the worst case scenario that could happen is maybe you don't get in the first year. But I think that and I hope that you're going to be flooded with amazing applications, because this is an opportunity that Alaska has not seen before. And there are so many folks that sit around and just they don't know how to get involved, and it's not their fault they don't know how to get involved. We don't have good systems for folks to get involved. This is your foot in the door, folks, not only with things that you're going to have opportunities in Alaska through this program, but you're going to be trained by some of the best from around the whole United States. And it's going to be a whirlwind. And this is a place where there are no more excuses. Jump in. It's going to be fun.
Jump in, everybody. This is going to be, this is a good one.
Yeah, you won't regret it.
No, you won't regret it. Bethany, what else is the Alaska Policy Forum working on?
Oh, we're looking a lot at the state budget right now that was passed and signed. We're kind of digging into that and doing comparisons between it and previous years, seeing what changes happened to the budget. We're also doing some work on exposing some of the spending that has happened in the state school districts. So we've done open records requests from the school districts, and we're analyzing some of that data to see how they're spending their funding. Just this morning, I heard on the radio, the Anchorage School District is sponsoring the Alaska Fishing Report, which seems like an interesting use of government money to sponsor a fishing report for the school district, right? They're hurting. Some of the school districts are, because parents and families are choosing alternatives other than their public school. Right. And so we're going to look at how they're spending that money, because they are definitely feeling the impact.
Interesting. Well, I had no idea, but I do have an idea that we do spend an awful lot of money per student. And when I went to school, our schools in Alaska were the second best in the nation. And now they are the second to the worst in the nation. And that's just in a couple generations here. So we're doing stuff that isn't working. And, it was working, it's not working now. So, well, we all know that. That's another topic for another day, but we will get back to you on that. We want you back on the show. And we want to make sure that we kind of catch up on how this Leadership Academy is going. And I think once you get started with the Leadership Academy, we want to hear back from you about how it's going.
Absolutely.
So for everybody, we're kind of winding up here. If you're a supporter of Must Read Alaska, thank you so much. Make sure you go to www.gungerstein.com and check out Shoshana Gungerstein for Senate. She is the sponsor of our show, and she's got a lot to talk about in terms of her campaign as an independent, nonpartisan candidate for the Senate. Thank you, Shoshana Gungerstein, for Senate, for sponsoring the Must Read Alaska show. And if you'd like to support the conservative side of the news, well, just hit that donate button on the right side of Must Read Alaska. It costs a lot to put a podcast together and a newsletter and a website. Trust me, this is a pretty expensive enterprise. Bottom line, costs about at the minimum $70,000 a year to keep this enterprise going. So we appreciate all of you who do support us. Thank you so much. And John, you've got the podcast tomorrow, and you said you had, I believe, Kristen Faulkner tomorrow. Is that right?
Yep, Kristen Faulkner will be tomorrow. She's ranked number 14th in the world for competitive cycling. She's going to be, she just won a stage in the Tour de Suisse. And she is going to be hitting the Tour de France here, I think this week or next.
Yeah, it's coming right up. So I'm going to be listening to that. And lost my earbud here, everybody. And then
we just did an article on her too, for those folks that are listening who don't follow cycling, which we don't blame you if you don't. You can just go to our Facebook, and it's pinned to the top there. It kind of gives a little spiel on her to check out what she's doing.
A lot of cyclists in Alaska. A lot of them are downhillers down up at Alyeska. They take their bikes to the top, and they just go bombing on down the mountain. John, who won our Extra Tough giveaway this week? I mean, you had somebody from Homer win it, and she got all kinds of swag. What's the deal on that?
Yeah, so that was pretty exciting. The CEO of Extra Tough, actually the CEO of Rocky Brands, came on, which is a publicly traded company, a big company who happens to have one of their brands as Extra Tough. So he acts as the CEO of Extra Tough. They were on the podcast last week, and he was a blast. And one of the things they did is they wanted to do a giveaway with our listeners, which was very gracious of him. And so he said he was going to throw in a pair of boots, sweatshirt, and a couple koozies. And so we had probably 1,600 people enter that competition, which is a lot of folks. We had probably 10,000 people interact with that post or so. And so Laura Camp won that from, I think she's in Homer. Yeah. And she's very excited. She's been notified. We're in communication. People are always very concerned about making sure. They're like, making sure the person gets the winnings. So we have made sure that the person will get the winnings, and they're very excited.
Well, Bethany, if you have any swag you want to ever give away, just let us know, and we'll get you on the show, and we'll do a giveaway with your Alaska Policy Forum koozies.
We can do that. We've got swag.
You got swag. I know you got swagger too. Well, for everybody, thanks again. Until next week, we're signing off now from somewhere in Alaska.